The F-16C flies out into War Thunder. Let's check it out. When the F-16 originally entered service in the late 1970s, it represented a new paradigm for American fighters, but entered service at a bit of an awkward moment. A number of technological innovations were just on the cusp of being ready, and it wasn't until the mid-1980s that some of these new systems were mature enough to go into regular operational military service. The F-16C was introduced in 1984, starting with the Block 25 production run. These new jets introduced the AN/APG-68 radar set, which was a significant upgrade over the earlier APG-66, offering better detection range, true all-weather capability, a 4-target track-wall scan mode, a significantly faster computer, and numerous other updated features. In addition to the new radar, the F-16C model featured a newer engine, an updated cockpit, and a significant expansion of its weapons compatibility as progressive production blocks became available. Subsequent blocks were also able to carry the AGM-88 high-speed anti-radiation missile, the AGM-154 glide bomb, JDAMs, the AGM-65 anti-tank missile, and critically, the active radar-guided AIM-120 AMRAAM. The F-16C represented the evolution of a close-in dogfighter into a true multi-role aircraft, and its capabilities continued to expand throughout Blocks 30, 40, and 50, along with some minor variations within those production blocks themselves. Now, it's important to note that while the F-16C was a multi-role fighter, it still retained outstanding air combat performance, and this combination of features has made it very popular in the international export market. Various blocks of F-16C remained in production well into the 2000s and are still in service all over the world. What we get in War Thunder is the F-16C Block 50, a jet fighter in rank 8 of the American tech tree with a battle rating of 12.3. This jet gets a ballistics computer with all of the usual top-tier features, and carries the AN/ALR-56M radar warning receiver. This unit has really good range, target identification against most modern radars, and incoming missile detection. The F-16C also gets a helmet-mounted tracker for its heat seekers, but the radar set doesn't slave to the helmet. The radar is the AN/APG-68 V7. This is a top-end radar set with good range, very strong detection, multiple pulse Doppler modes, and track-wall scan. As of making this video, this is objectively one of the best radar sets in the game. For loadouts, the jet gets a full suite of missiles, bombs, rocket pods, guided air-to-ground weapons, and it can take a targeting pod. For air-to-air weapons, you get the AIM-9L and AIM-9M. These are both very capable all-aspect air-to-air missiles, some of the best in the game as of late 2023. And the ECCM on the 9 mic will get you a lot of hits that might otherwise miss, but more about the 9 mic later. You also get the AIM-7M. This is a high-performance version of the semi-active radar-homing Sparrow missile. It's got relatively long range at high altitude, reasonably reliable target tracking, and it'll be your only weapon for BVR engagements, but it is a good one. For ground attack, you can take 2 different sizes of paveway laser-guided bombs, as well as the AGM-65D IR-guided Maverick anti-tank missile. With the targeting pod, the LGBs are very accurate, while the Mavericks hit faster from farther range. But really, these are all great hard-hitting options for close air support. Being a reasonably modern 4th-generation fighter, the flight performance on the F-16C is very strong. The acceleration is good, it climbs well, and it's got a reasonably high maximum rip speed. You can cruise around in this thing at like Mach 1.3, even down at low altitude. There are some very minor turn performance differences compared to the earlier F-16A, and I can already hear the furious typing in the comments, but in a practical sense, most players won't really notice the differences during normal gameplay, especially with an external weapon load. If you've flown the earlier F-16s, the C model will feel very familiar. Its turn performance is outstanding, and you can throw this thing into some crazy high G energy turns at medium speeds. That is, of course, the big detail with the F-16's maneuverability. The sweet spot for turn performance is in between about 800 and 1,000 kilometers an hour. If you're too fast, coming into a merge at Mach infinity, your turn performance might seem like trash. It's not. Just slow down. Speed management really is the key to the F-16's flight performance, and just remember that while this jet can pull some really insane high AOA turns and outrate most other jets in the game in a raw turn fight, it also bleeds energy really fast if you abuse the turn performance, so keep an eye on that airspeed. The other thing to remember is that this jet can take a drop tank and a significant amount of external ordnance. Its flight performance goes down quite a bit when it's fully loaded, just like most other jets, so if you get sucked into a close-up dogfight against a lightly loaded MiG-29 or something, consider dumping those bombs and stuff if you need that little extra edge in your turns. The F-16C also gets a reasonably effective air brake that you should be using frequently, but it doesn't get combat flaps. That's fine though, because it doesn't really need them. Flying this jet out into air battles is a fairly typical 4th gen top tier fighter experience. You get multi-role weapon options, so if you want to use this thing for ground attack in air battles, you can, even though everyone's going to be kind of looking at you funny. And it carries enough bombs to take out a base in one pass, and enough air-to-ground ordnance to take out an enormous number of AI ground targets. For air combat, the AIM-7M provides some solid BVR performance, and it can be used at pretty good range against head-on targets. Even in a tail chase, this missile will catch things that you might not expect it to hit. The introduction of the AIM-9M and the helmet-mounted targeting give the F-16C a noticeable increase in dogfight utility over earlier versions of the plane. The new 9 mic can be quite difficult to flare off, and with the helmet-mounted targeting, it's really easy to get a weapons lock most of the time. Plus, it's basically smokeless, which kind of creates some new dynamics where you might find yourself in furball dogfights accidentally wasting a missile shot on someone that you couldn't really tell already had a 9 mic from a teammate flying in on them. It may take you some time to adjust to that, but overall, it's going to be a pretty big advantage in simulator battles or flying fighter sweeps out above ground RB. The EEGS gives you a reason to radar lock targets in a dogfight, and the vertically offset targeting frame for the ACM Boresight mode is incredibly effective for close-up fighting. Just remember to watch that airspeed and try to keep it around 800 to 1000 at the start of a fight. Now, another key use of the F-16C is in close air support. It can take LGBs and the IR version of the Maverick, so lots of good options for precision strikes. A notable detail that may or may not get patched out at some point is that the laser designator on the targeting pod currently slaves to your helmet-mounted targeting, which is another interesting new dynamic, and it can let you guide LGBs down into smoke and stuff that would normally block an auto-track lock, at the cost of a little accuracy because you're aiming from longer distance. This might especially be useful against scouted targets that pop smoke, so something to keep in mind. Visually, if you like the F-16s generally, you'll love this one. It's got a whole bunch of custom paint jobs available right on day one, including some really cool looking ones from different squadrons. Overall, this is a very good looking jet. Landing the F-16C is reasonably basic, with the usual F-16 caveat that it's got a pretty narrow undercarriage, so try not to be doing crazy S-turns and stuff on the runway. It can drop landing flaps at around 550 kilometers an hour and gear at around 480. No drag chute, so lock up the brakes. The cockpit on this plane is, frankly, amazing. The visibility is outstanding. It's got 2 big MFDs in good spots, the radar warning receiver right where I like it, and a useful heads-up display. 10 out of 10 on the cockpit. No notes. To close out on the F-16C Block 50. This jet has a fully featured suite of sensors and combat systems, really good air-to-air missiles, a huge weapon load, excellent agility, and a reasonable supply of countermeasures. However, it can still bleed off energy pretty bad in fast, high AOA turns. The final verdict on the F-16C is that this jet is an excellent all-around fighter. It's got good multi-role options, great performance, and really no significant weaknesses. Totally worth the grind. As always, thanks for watching.